The stars shone brightly in the endless sky, but their beauty could not hide the danger creeping across the galaxy. On the royal planet of Lysara, the air was tense, filled with whispers of war. Aliens from the neighboring system, the Vorath, had declared their hunger for power. Their fleets were vast, their technology advanced, and their goal was simple: capture the princess and force the kingdom to bow to them. Inside the royal palace, Princess Alara moved quietly through the corridors, her heart racing. The alarm bells had rung hours ago. Her guards fought bravely, but the Vorath were too strong. Each blast of alien energy shook the walls, and the palace trembled under the assault. In the chaos, the princess had been cornered in the eastern tower, surrounded by enemies who showed no mercy. Far from the palace, on the outskirts of the city, a young human student named Kieran studied stars and machines. He had come to Lysara to learn about alien technology and had no interest in politics or war. But fate had other plans. As Kieran adjusted the lens of his telescope, he noticed strange lights moving across the palace grounds. Curiosity pulled him closer, and soon he realized that the palace was under attack. Kieran's first instinct was to hide. Humans were considered weak in this part of the galaxy. One human student against a Vorath assault fleet? It was madness. Yet something inside him refused to turn away. He packed a small bag with tools, gadgets, and supplies he always carried, and quietly slipped through the shadows toward the palace. The closer he got, the more chaos he saw. Alien drones hovered in the sky, firing energy pulses that cracked the walls. Guards were fighting, some running, some falling. Kieran's heart pounded, but he forced himself to focus. He remembered the blueprints of the palace he had studied before, noticing a small maintenance tunnel that could lead him to the tower where the princess was trapped. Crawling through the tunnel, Kieran avoided the drone's sensors. His small size and human unpredictability worked in his favor. He reached the tower and paused at a small grated window. There, tied to a support beam, was Princess Alara. Her royal dress was torn, her hair messy, but her eyes burned with defiance. "Who are you?" she whispered when she saw him. "Someone who wants to get you out," Kieran replied, keeping his voice calm. He worked quickly, using small tools to unlock the ropes. "Can you move?" Alara nodded. "Yes, but the stairs are blocked. The drones will see us if we go outside." Kieran smiled slightly. "Then we'll take the air ducts." Humans were known for their ingenuity, and Kieran proved it now. Using lightweight rods and rope, he created a makeshift harness that allowed Alara to climb through the ducts. The space was narrow, dark, and full of sharp edges, but Kieran's careful planning kept them safe. As they moved, he whispered, "Stay close to me. Don't make any sudden moves." The duct system led them to the lower levels of the palace, where most of the fighting was happening. Kieran listened to the chaos above. The Vorath were organized and relentless, but the guards were holding some areas. Still, it was clear they could not stay there for long. Suddenly, a patrol drone turned a corner. Kieran froze. He looked at Alara, who followed his lead. The drone's sensors swept the corridor. Kieran thought fast. He grabbed a small mirror from his bag, angled it to reflect the light, and aimed it at the drone's sensor. The machine faltered, confused by the reflection. Kieran kicked a small panel on the wall, creating a spark that made the drone redirect its path. They slipped past unnoticed. "This is amazing," Alara whispered, a mixture of fear and admiration in her voice. Kieran chuckled softly. "Humans have ways you won't expect, but we have to keep moving." They reached the grand hall, where the final confrontation awaited. The Vorath leader, a tall alien with glowing red eyes, was directing the attack. His soldiers moved like a well-oiled machine, overpowering the remaining guards. Kieran realized they needed a distraction. He scanned the hall and spotted a series of energy conduits along the walls. With a few quick calculations, he sent a small EMP pulse through one conduit, causing lights to flicker and weapons to short-circuit. Chaos erupted. "Now!" Kieran shouted. He grabbed Alara's hand and ran through the corridors. The Vorath soldiers were momentarily disoriented, giving them a chance to reach the palace gates. Outside, the city was a battlefield. Explosions lit the streets, and debris rained from damaged buildings. Kieran led Alara through alleyways, using his knowledge of the city's layout to avoid patrols. At one point, they had to cross a bridge under heavy fire. Kieran noticed a fallen hover cart nearby. "Hold on tight," he said. He jumped onto the cart, activated its engine, and zoomed across the bridge, dodging energy blasts. Alara clung to him, her fear turning into trust as she realized this human student had saved her life with courage and clever thinking. Finally, they reached a safe zone outside the city where friendly pilots waited. Kieran handed Alara to them. She looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You saved me. How can I ever thank you?" Kieran shook his head. "Just survive, that's enough." But the princess had more in mind. She had seen the way Kieran thought, the way he handled impossible situations. He was more than a student. He was a human with a mind that could change the fate of worlds. As the safe zone's ships lifted off, Kieran watched the burning palace fade below. The city was scarred, the kingdom shaken, but the princess was alive. And in that moment, Kieran understood something about humans. Their strength was not in numbers, not in weapons, but in creativity, courage, and the refusal to give up. The journey was far from over. The Vorath would not stop. The kingdom would need more heroes. But for now, Kieran had done the impossible. He had saved a princess in a galaxy where humans were thought to be weak. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, he realized that his life would never be the same again. For the first time, Kieran felt the weight of responsibility and the possibility of greatness. The stars outside the small shuttle glimmered like distant diamonds, cold and silent, yet full of endless possibility. Inside, Princess Alara sat quietly, her mind racing. She could not stop thinking about what had just happened. She had been saved by a human, an ordinary student from another planet, yet one whose courage and cleverness had changed her fate. Kieran, sitting across from her, adjusted some wires on a small device he had pulled from his bag. Even in the quiet, he was thinking, planning, always observing. Alara watched him for a moment, curious. Humans were strange creatures, small, fragile, and yet so capable in ways the Vorath could not anticipate. The shuttle's pilot, a veteran of Lysara's fleet, broke the silence. "We are entering safe space soon, but beware, the Vorath will not stop easily. They may have traced us." Alara nodded. "I know, and we need more than luck to survive." She looked at Kieran. You saved my life. I owe you more than I can say." Kieran shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do if they could, though maybe not exactly like this." She smiled faintly. There was something in his calmness, his confidence, that inspired trust. It was rare in a galaxy where most species measured worth by strength or weapons. Humans, she realized, measured worth differently, by intelligence, adaptability, and heart. The shuttle descended onto a nearby allied planet, a place far enough from the Vorath to offer temporary safety. Kieran and Alara stepped off, taking in the bustling spaceport. Ships of every shape and size moved through the air, carrying merchants, travelers, and soldiers. For Kieran, it was another new world to study. For Alara, it was a chance to recover and plan. Their first challenge came quickly. Word had already spread that the princess had escaped. Some factions in the Allied Council wanted to negotiate with the Vorath, fearing further attacks. Others wanted to fortify defenses immediately. Alara realized she could not stay hidden. Her presence alone could rally the people, but it also made them targets. "I need someone I can trust," she said to Kieran as they walked through the city. "Someone who thinks differently than the council, someone who can act without fear of politics." Kieran paused, looking at her with a mixture of surprise and caution. "You mean you want me to help with what exactly?" Alara stopped. "To protect my family, my children. If the Vorath succeed in the future, they will target the heirs. I need someone who can teach them, guard them, and guide them, someone outside the usual traditions." Someone human. Kieran swallowed hard. This was not a small task. Guardianship of royal heirs was a responsibility beyond anything he had imagined, and yet he felt a spark of determination. "I will do it," he said simply. "If you trust me, I'll make sure they are safe." Alara studied him, her eyes softened. "I do trust you. I saw what you did with your own eyes. You think like no one else here. That is what we need." In the following days, Kieran and Alara began the preparation. The children, young twins named Leora and Kale, were brought to the safe planet. Kieran met them for the first time and noticed their natural curiosity. They asked questions constantly, explored everything around them, and had the same spark he had seen in humanity for centuries, a desire to learn and create. He smiled as he watched them test the limits of a gravity simulator. "Careful," he warned. "You don't want to break the equipment before I can finish my calculations." Leora laughed. "We can do better than you," Kale grinned. "Yes, I bet I can." Kieran shook his head with a chuckle. "We'll see about that." It was then that Alara realized something important. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they could teach her children more than any traditional tutor. They could teach them ingenuity, adaptability, and courage, the very traits needed to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Their first real test came sooner than expected. Scouts reported a Vorath advance on a nearby colony. The council debated sending soldiers, but Kieran suggested a different plan. He studied the terrain and the enemy's likely path. "They will expect us to attack head-on," he said. "But what if we use decoys and traps? They rely too much on technology. They won't expect human cleverness." Alara watched him carefully. Could a human student really outthink the Vorath, whose fleets and strategies were legendary? But she remembered the rescue, how he had turned the palace's own systems against the enemy. She nodded. "Do it your way," she said. Kieran assembled a small team, including some of the children's guards and a few engineers. They set up a series of traps along the path the Vorath would take. They hid sensors in trees, rigged communication jammers, and even set up decoy settlements. Every move was precise, yet unpredictable, a true human strategy. When the Vorath fleet arrived, they expected resistance but not ingenuity. Their sensors picked up signals that led them astray. Drones fell into hidden pits, patrols were misled by decoys, and energy pulses bounced harmlessly off clever reflectors. Kieran and his team moved quietly, adjusting as needed. The battle was brief but decisive. The Vorath were forced to retreat, unable to understand why their technology had failed. For the first time, many aliens saw humans not as weak creatures, but as clever, resourceful beings capable of thinking differently. Alara was amazed. "You did it again," she said. "They didn't even see it coming." Kieran shrugged. "Humans are good at making the impossible happen, that's all." The victory brought more than safety. It brought trust from the council, from the people, and most importantly, from the princess herself. Alara realized that Kieran could do more than protect her children physically. He could teach them strategy, problem-solving, and courage. She began to involve Kieran in planning for their future. She spoke to him late at night in the quiet of her chambers, discussing potential threats, alliances, and ways to strengthen the kingdom. Kieran contributed ideas she had never considered, ways to use human ingenuity in diplomacy, methods of rapid evacuation, and even ways to repurpose old technology to create new defenses. Through these discussions, Alara's respect for him grew. She could see the future clearly with his mind at work, one where her children might survive, thrive, and even lead in ways that no one expected. One evening, as they observed the stars from a balcony, Alara spoke softly. "I have been a princess all my life, but I have never felt secure until now. You make me believe that even in the darkest times we can find hope." Kieran looked at her, his usual calm expression softening. "Humans find hope in small things. Curiosity, cleverness, a plan that others overlook. Hope is something we make, not something we wait for." She nodded, understanding the truth of his words. It was not just protection he offered. It was guidance, knowledge, and the kind of confidence that could shape a future. Over the following weeks, Kieran began training Leora and Kale. His methods were unorthodox. He encouraged them to ask questions, to test limits, to find multiple solutions to every problem. They built simple machines, practiced navigation, and learned basic strategies for defense. The children thrived under his guidance, their natural curiosity amplified by his ingenuity. It was not easy. The twins often challenged him, tried to take risks he considered dangerous, and sometimes caused accidents. But Kieran remained patient. "Mistakes are how humans learn," he reminded them. "Every problem has a solution, you just have to find it." Alara watched this with growing admiration. She realized that in Kieran, her children had more than a guardian. They had a teacher who could prepare them for anything. And in preparing them, she was preparing a generation of leaders who might one day change the galaxy's perception of humanity. But shadows still loomed. The Vorath would not forget their failure. Kieran and the princess knew it was only a matter of time before another attack came. Yet, for the first time, they faced the future with confidence. Not just because of technology, but because of human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, the qualities that had saved them once and would guide them again. As the planet's twin suns set, casting golden light over the training fields, Kieran paused to watch Leora and Kale run through a simulated obstacle course he had designed. They laughed, encouraged each other, and solved problems together. He realized something important. Humans were not just survivors. They could inspire, lead, and change the galaxy through their creativity. Alara joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I trust you," she said simply. "With my life, my children, and our future." Kieran nodded. It was more responsibility than he had ever imagined, yet he felt ready. The journey had begun, and humanity's place in the galaxy was just starting to be recognized. For Kieran, there was no turning back. He had been a student, curious and small in a vast universe. Now he was a teacher, a strategist, and a guardian, a human whose mind could make a difference in a galaxy that never expected it. The stars above promised challenges ahead, but Kieran felt a quiet confidence. With trust, ingenuity, and courage, humans could overcome even the greatest odds. And he would prove it. The galaxy was alive with danger. Even as the suns of the safe planet dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, Princess Alara knew the Vorath had not given up. Their earlier failure had wounded them deeply, and they would return stronger, more determined, and smarter. Kieran, standing beside her on the balcony, scanned the stars with his portable telescope. His human instincts told him trouble was coming, but he also knew humans had a way of turning impossible situations into victories. "They're out there," he said quietly. "Waiting for the right moment, but we're ready this time." Alara looked at him, her eyes reflecting both trust and concern. "I know, and that is why I trust you with my children, Kieran. They will face challenges I cannot always protect them from." "But you," she hesitated, then smiled faintly. "You will guide them, you will make them strong." Kieran nodded. "I will, and not just strong, clever, resourceful, and ready for anything." Leora and Kale, now more confident and curious than ever, joined them. The twins had grown under Kieran's guidance. They understood that challenges were not to be feared but to be solved, and today Kieran had a special lesson prepared, strategy under pressure. "Listen carefully," he told them. "The Vorath will come again. And when they do, they'll expect the same old defenses. But humans are unpredictable. We think differently. We use what others ignore. Your job is to learn, adapt, and make decisions quickly. Can you do that?" The children nodded eagerly. "Yes, Kieran," he smiled. "Good. Today, we practice with a simulation. Pretend the enemy is everywhere, and we must protect the city, the people, and you too." The twins moved through the obstacle course he had designed, solving problems that required logic, creativity, and speed. Kieran watched, giving advice when needed but letting them think for themselves. "Don't just react," he said. "Plan ahead, look at what the enemy expects, then do something they cannot guess." Hours passed, and the sun disappeared completely. Night fell over the planet, and the stars glimmered coldly above. Suddenly, the communication device in Kieran's hand beeped. His eyes widened slightly. "They're coming," he muttered. Alara's face hardened. "We have to move fast. Can the children handle it?" "They can," Kieran said calmly, "but we have to be smart, follow my lead, and trust each other." The Vorath fleet appeared on the horizon, their ships dark and massive. They moved with precision, firing pulses that lit up the skies. Kieran assessed the situation quickly. Direct combat would be dangerous. Even with the planet's defenses, the Vorath were too strong. They needed a human plan, a plan no alien would anticipate. He turned to the twins. "Leora, Kale, we're going to do something new. You will help, but you must pay attention. Every move counts." They nodded, excitement and determination shining in their eyes. Kieran led them to a control center where he had set up a network of sensors, decoys, and devices. "We will divide them into smaller groups," he explained. "We'll mislead their sensors, jam their communications, and use the terrain to our advantage. Then we strike where they least expect it." Alara watched, impressed. The human's mind worked like a machine, predicting every possible scenario. "You really think this will work?" she asked. Kieran smiled faintly. "It has to, but even if it doesn't, humans adapt. That is how we survive." The battle began. Kieran, with the twins at his side, guided the city's defenses. Drones and energy shields were deployed in patterns the Vorath had never seen. Decoys moved along false streets, luring enemy patrols into harmless traps. Kieran used mirrors and reflective panels to confuse targeting systems, and he coordinated small squads of humans who moved unpredictably, striking in unexpected ways. The Vorath were bewildered. Their advanced sensors failed to map the city correctly. Every calculated move they made was countered by human ingenuity. Kieran directed the twins to monitor certain sensors, and their quick thinking allowed the defenders to anticipate ambushes and neutralize threats. Leora shouted, "The left flank is clear." Kale pointed at a sensor. "They're trying to bypass it, Kieran." Kieran nodded, adjusting a control panel. "Good, redirect the drones to the east, use the traps." Hours passed like minutes. The battle raged, but slowly the Vorath began to falter. They were not defeated by brute force or technology, but by the human mind, a force they had underestimated. Alara could hardly believe her eyes. The twins, guided by Kieran, were making decisions that impacted the course of the battle. Humans, she realized, were more than capable of defending a kingdom. They could think, adapt, and inspire in ways no alien could predict. Finally, the Vorath realized their strategy was failing. Their forces retreated, leaving the city intact. The people cheered, amazed at the victory, but Kieran did not relax. He knew the galaxy was still dangerous. This victory was temporary and more challenges would come. Alara approached him as the cheers faded. "You saved us again. I don't know how to thank you." Kieran shook his head. "No thanks, just keep learning, that's enough." But Alara smiled. "I will do more than learn. I will ensure humans are recognized for what they are, clever, resourceful, and brave. And you will be remembered for what you have done here." Days turned into weeks. Kieran continued to train Leora and Kale, teaching them more than strategy and defense. He taught them the value of creativity, the importance of observation, and the strength that came from intelligence and courage. Under his guidance, they grew not just as children, but as future leaders capable of defending the kingdom and inspiring others. Meanwhile, Kieran studied alien technology, finding ways to improve defenses using human principles. He created devices that were simple yet effective, using unexpected combinations that no alien would anticipate. Each invention, each strategy reinforced the message. Humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, clever, and indispensable. One evening, as the planet's 2 moons rose in the sky, Kieran stood with Alara, watching her children practice navigation through the stars. "You've done well," she said softly. "I was afraid at first, leaving them in the hands of a human. But now I see humans have a strength we never fully understood." Kieran looked at the twins, who waved and shouted excitedly as they navigated a small shuttle through the simulated asteroid field. "We always do. Sometimes it just takes a crisis for others to notice." Alara smiled, feeling a deep sense of relief and hope. "I trust you, Kieran, not just with my children, but with our future. You've shown me that even in a galaxy ruled by power and fear, humans have something no one else does." "What's that?" Kieran asked. "Ingenuity," she said simply, "courage and heart." The galaxy would continue to challenge them. The Vorath might return and other threats could emerge. But for the first time, Alara knew her children were ready. And Kieran, once a simple student, had become more than a hero. He was a guardian, a teacher, and a symbol of humanity's potential. The final test came unexpectedly. Scouts reported a secret Vorath fleet hidden near a distant asteroid belt. This time, they intended not to attack directly, but to trap the city, cut off supplies, and weaken morale. Kieran immediately formulated a plan. He combined everything he had taught the twins with the knowledge he had gained from the first battle. "We will use the asteroid belt to our advantage," he explained. "They think it will slow us down, but we will move faster and strike from unexpected angles." Leora and Kale were thrilled. "We get to help again?" Kale asked eagerly. "Exactly," Kieran said. "But remember, observe first, act second. That is how humans win." The battle was intense. The Vorath fleet, expecting a straightforward assault, was thrown into confusion. Kieran and the twins guided defensive drones through the asteroid belt, using gravitational anomalies to mislead sensors. Small energy pulses and reflective shields created illusions, making the Vorath believe the city had multiple defenses that did not exist. The Vorath retreated once more, bewildered and frustrated. They had faced humans before, but never like this. Every attack, every strategy, every device was unpredictable. They had underestimated a species they thought weak, and the lesson was clear. Humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless when protecting what they loved. Alara watched the twins celebrate with Kieran. She felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity had proven itself, not with overwhelming power, but with intelligence, courage, and creativity. Kieran had turned his curiosity into a force that changed the course of the kingdom's survival. As the city quieted and the stars stretched endlessly above, Kieran looked at the twins and said, "Remember this lesson. No matter how strong the enemy seems, humans always find a way. We adapt, we learn, and we never give up." Alara joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have changed the future, Kieran. You've shown everyone that humans are more than they seem." He smiled quietly. "We're not perfect, but we can be strong in ways no one expects. That is what makes us human." And under the twin moons of the safe planet, a student-turned-guardian stood tall, watching over the next generation. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but humanity's place in it was no longer uncertain. With courage, ingenuity, and heart, humans could face any challenge. And Kieran would ensure that his students, the children of a princess, knew exactly what it meant to be human. The stars above promised more trials, more battles, and more discoveries. But one truth had been proven: humans were capable of greatness beyond imagination. And this small group, led by a single clever student, had made it clear to the galaxy that human ingenuity could never be ignored.